Oh, Silico, you had so much hope, so much promise. I really thought you had the potential to be interesting, to maintain a threatening status, to actually follow through with a truly evil scheme. What was I thinking? There's no sense in hiding it. Viral Spiral was a much better episode centering around the shady internet nerd than what Halt and Catch Silico happened to deliver. In a way, this episode breaks the mold established earlier on in the reboot in the sense that the second episode featuring a new villain has always been stronger than their first appearance. This is not the case with Silico, because any potential for this guy to maintain a threatening reputation has been thrown straight down the garbage chute. I mean, this guy put up a real fight in Viral Spiral despite having the Amoeba Boys do his dirty work for him, but that added to some of the suspense surrounding his character. The end of that episode literally showed us that he has the power of the entire internet at his fingertips. In this day and age, that means he's inherently a god. But even still, we never learn much about him. What is his ulterior motive? What does Silico have against the girls? Why is he so similar to Extor from Samurai Jack? Well, this episode elaborates on all of these questions, except for maybe the last one, and needless to say, I am not satisfied with the answers.
You can't hide forever.
Who's there?
I am Extor, the one who created those monsters.
It's not just me, right? It's just so disappointing to see one of the few promising characters this show had going for it descend to the same level as all of the other lame villains. He was set up to be this big menacing computer hacker that could take down anyone via technology. He could have been a tyrannical villain that would have actually given the girls a run for their money. But after seeing the origin story that this episode gives us, I highly doubt that will ever happen again. And I have to say, it's a major missed opportunity that those ones and zeros don't actually translate to anything in binary. I mean, maybe there are more numbers being obstructed by the text in the title card, but regardless, it's just a minor detail that would have been cool had it actually said something. But enough about that. I'm sure most of you are wondering how this episode actually begins. Well, Blossom is pulled aside by Buttercup because she and Bubbles discovered a brand new website called the Townsville Mukbucket, essentially the reboot's equivalent of The Onion. You know, that online satire site that posts fake news stories? Yeah, that's the one. I think it's another missed opportunity that they didn't include Fuzzy Lumpkins on that coffee cup considering the name. Can't say it wasn't very suprising though. What? It says so right there. Suprising. On the other hand, there is a glimmer of continuity mentioned in one of these captions describing how Bigfoot is starting a shoe company with the fashionistas. I know it's not much, but I'm trying to give this reboot credit with what little shreds of continuity I can find. Buttercup serves as the biggest advocate of the three characters here, considering she's the one under the impression that, if it's on the internet, it must be true. Well, she's not wrong. That being said, the moon landing was staged, the world's going down in 5 days, and the original Legend of Zelda is a good game.
Tiny mayor found under mayor's hat. Whoa, mind blown.
Get out!
So after browsing around the site some more, the girls stumble upon an article falsely accusing Mojo of cooking kittens, which they totally believe due to the fallacy that Buttercup convinced them of just seconds earlier. And here's a sight to behold, the girls actually bust down Mojo's wall when they arrive on the scene. Almost as if they're finally going to fight him in hand-to-nub combat after 29 episodes of putting it off. Crossover not included. Alright, let's back up for a second here. So the girls opt to break into Mojo's lair, choose to ignore everything he says despite clearly telling them to wait, proceed to beat him up on an allegation that they read online when they don't have any physical proof that he was actually doing anything, then decide to just leave him there on the ground writhing in agony? They don't even apologize. Are we sure the reboot girls aren't the true villains here? Because this doesn't look very heroic to me. And as if that wasn't enough, the next scene is where we stumble upon one of my least favorite scenes in the entire series thus far.
Down with the Powerpuff Girls!
My God! And you sit up here and have the audacity to be ungrateful when we do something for you. How dare you?
Time to talk about the townsfolk as characters, or rather a character since all of these people act as one unified entity. They are aware these girls protect their city, right? Supposedly. Why are they treating them like shit? I guarantee at least half of these people would be buried in a coffin 6 feet underground if it weren't for the girls saving the day all the time. Supposedly. Remember how Bluebell treated the girls in Once Upon a Townsville? It's the exact same ploy here. And heck, the mob's reasoning for doing so is arguably worse. These guys are trying to drive the Powerpuff Girls out of their city because apparently Bubbles puts little hamsters in jail? Seriously, this is their reason for turning against the girls. They're too stupid to register that this thing is meant to be a cage, so they outright rebuke the girls despite the fact that they save them all the damn time. Supposedly. No, wait, it gets worse.
A likely story coming from someone who doesn't wash their hands after using the bathroom.
Not even after she poured a poopy?
Oh no, she didn't.
Okay, fuck this. I'm done.
Shadow? He'll be right back.
Sorry about that. Where was I? The only dirt the Townsville citizens can find on Buttercup is that she wears a toupee. And? What's stopping Buttercup from proving she doesn't wear one? Like, yeah, I can understand it being difficult for her sisters to prove their cases considering they can't necessarily present evidence right there in the flesh, but all Buttercup has to do here is have the citizens pull on her hair. Come to think of it, does that even look like a toupee? And for what reason would wearing a toupee cause everyone in the city to hate her? That's unjustified. I'm pretty sure that Granny's wearing one and she's a part of the crowd. This isn't a convincing reason for me to believe that the townsfolk find the Powerpuff Girls guilty of anything because these aren't legitimate qualms that the girls should feel obligated to address. This scenario is the epitome of why I hate the misrepresentation of the town in this episode. All of these people are made out to be ignorant, ungrateful little pricks just for the sake of giving the girls a hard time. It's not a case of them being stupid due to their innocence, it's them being stupid for the sake of taking a level in dumbass. They lack any capability of processing logic and reason for their actions because the plot demands they make the main characters feel bad for something they didn't do. If anything, this just acts as a prime example of negative mob mentality towards the girls. The townsfolk are acting as stupid as they possibly can for the sole fact that nobody could come up with legitimate slander against the girls' reputation. Why not make them look like the villain? And not with this poorly made hamster excuse, I'm talking bona fide villainy here. You know what the slanderer could have done? They could have accused the girls of attacking Mojo when he wasn't doing anything wrong. That would have been a perfect criticism for the townsfolk to hold over the girls' heads, and it would have tied the two events closer together because the villain could have used that first article as a setup. I think it would have helped the episode flow better too. The scenario makes even less sense in Townsville because, just as I said for the episode The Wrinklegruff Gals, they're their town's saviors. I refuse to believe these guys don't know how important these characters are considering they, supposedly, save the day every single week. Show the least bit of respect. After a rather quick escape from the angry mob that's chasing them, the girls come to the conclusion that somebody is out there posting lies about them.
I don't wear a toupee. This is homespun silk here.
Okay, so why didn't she show the townspeople that 30 seconds ago? They try to think of a way to get to the bottom of things, but as luck would have it, the culprit posted their logo right in plain sight for the girls to find. Let's see here, what else is being said about the girls?
Yes, Buttercup. Embrace the darkness.
The girls finally decide to do the logical thing and head over to Silico Industries for some answers, and sure enough, Silico is already there waiting for them. Okay, I have to give the writers props for this one. Unlike any of the other previous villains aside from Bianca and Barbaros to an extent, this is the only true introduction to a villain that both the girls and we, the audience, observe in this series. Yeah, Manboy was technically introduced in the episode Man Up, but that confrontation ultimately summed up to, I'm a man in the body of a boy, fear my Y chromosome, rah. My point is, the girls don't know who Silico is, and neither do we. This makes him more mysterious and intriguing as an antagonist.
Just like the Powerpuff Girls. Always solving problems with your fists.
Liar!
No, see, based off all of the episodes I've watched up to this point, which is over 30 by the way, the girls barely use their fists at all. But enough about that. Silico summons these holograms to fight the girls in his place since he's not exactly the strongest looking guy around.
That's just fine. In the real world, you're just a bitch with the keyboard.
It should come as a surprise to no one that the following fight sequence is nothing extraordinary, so I can't really compliment or detract much from it. The battle lasts a little longer than most, but the not so virtual reality of the matter is that it's just kind of there to stall the girls from getting to Silico, nothing more. I think the bigger issue here is actually Silico's actions because this sparks the beginning of his character's degradation. As it turns out, Silico's ultimate plan to defeat the girls was shitposting. Yeah, Shitposting. Really? This dude hacked the entire internet. Does he have any idea what he could do with that? He could have hacked into the government's records and exposed their weak points. He could have messed with the stock market numbers to rig everything in his favor so that he could become a billionaire. He could have ruled the entire world with a digital fist. But no, he chose the path of a wannabe meme lord who shitposts all day. Talk about wasted potential, man. Imagine this guy is a master of manipulation, cleverly ruining the lives of people across the globe to gain true dominance over the entire human race. It's just a shame. Like, it doesn't matter what he ends up doing in season 2 if he appears, because I've lost a lot of interest in Silico after witnessing this. And these shitposts aren't even that accurate. I mean, that's not even Big Joey in that image. Why do I know that? Regardless, Blossom manages to destroy Silico's control room after going on a rampage, thus bringing most of the conflict to a close. Okay, so I'll admit, I never had high standards for this reboot when it came to continuity. Yeah, I'd point out some minor flaws, like the fact that the girls go back to kindergarten at the beginning of Wrinklegruff Gals, but I've more so been asking for this show to be consistent when it comes to the portrayal of their characters. I don't need a dramatic story that spans 20 episodes the way shows like Steven Universe or Star vs. the Forces of Evil tend to handle those things, because that's not the kind of style that really suits the Powerpuff Girls. It might work given the proper circumstances, but I always liked the show for having individual episodes that could stand on their own. And even then, the original still managed to show signs of continuity in the later seasons, such as Bullet appearing in the city of Nutsville or Blossom mentioning where she got the giant matchstick in Wreaking Havoc. Yet, here after the girls corner Silico and he tells them his backstory, it just conflicts with a lot of the things that the series is known for, regardless of whether or not you want to consider this canon with the original series. So his tragic backstory goes something like this.
Silico.
Okay, all joking aside, basically he was a lonely child because he didn't have any friends and his parents were never around, so he decided to build mini robots as replacements for those people he didn't have in his life. Unfortunately for him, the girls were fighting a monster and happened to destroy his home along with his robot friends in the process, thus leading him to make a vow to get revenge on the girls from taking away the only friends he ever had in his life. The girl's response?
You want to destroy us because we wrecked your toys?
Yeah, I mean, it is kinda lame. I totally understand where Silico is coming from in the sense that he was emotionally traumatized, but there could have been more to him here. See, his robotic friends can be replaced. Real people cannot, if you catch my drift. And the fact that he says this happened many years ago is where the biggest continuity blunder comes into play. When the girls were first created, they were old enough to start kindergarten, which, bear in mind, only lasts a year. Now, if we also refer back to the fact that the Wrinklegruff Gal shows the girls going back to kindergarten despite the flashback showing the girls in kindergarten the year before that one, that implies they never passed. And that doesn't make any sense because for what reason would the girls fail kindergarten? Regardless, the fact of the matter is that the girls are presumably in elementary school, even though it looks like a middle school with characters that could potentially be in high school. It's why I just call it an elemental high school in the first place, because the show just can't seem to make up its mind. This means that, at most, the girls have existed for a few years' time, say 2 to 4, making the scenario Silico describes of the girls indirectly destroying his robot collection implausible. How could it have happened all those years ago? Especially considering that Silico here looks like he's a young adult now. Judging purely by his older appearance, I bet at least a decade has passed since the events described on this timeline. It is obvious to me that no other events or continuity was even considered when this choice was made, otherwise Silico's backstory wouldn't be retconning the chronology established by the reboot in the first place. At the very least, the girls do feel bad for what they've done because they never intended to hurt him, another characteristic of Silico's that I like. He is a product of the girls' own reckless actions, and I think this opens up a wide array of possibilities that the show could build upon. My only minor complaint is I wish it was caused by more than a few robot buddies being destroyed, because he could have easily built more of those things. This leads to the girls feeling bad for the mistakes they've made, so they go to Mojo's to apologize to him for beating him up earlier. After clearing up their misunderstanding, Mojo reveals he was cooking 4 kittens, so the slander the girls found online was skewed to portray the situation as more serious than it actually was. Until Mojo reveals that he was planning on feeding them so that he could raise up a deadly kitten army, because the monkey army from the Teen Titans Go crossover special went over so well the first time. Mojo's newest scheme was a ripoff of an original plan that failed twice. It was doomed to fail from the start. And then the episode just ends with the girls beating up Mojo off screen while Silico chuckles to himself on the computer in the background. Boy, what an episode that was. Outside of this scene with the angry mob I described earlier, nothing about this really gives me a negative attitude. Most of my bitterness towards this episode is a result of the disappointing revelation that Silico isn't all that he seemed cracked out to be, and the neglect of the show's continuity. I never had my hopes up too high with this guy to begin with because I wasn't as into Viral Spiral as everyone else seemed to be, but the more I think about it, the more I begin to understand why so many other people wanted to see where the show would go with this character. And here's an interesting tidbit for you. This episode title is based off of the television show Halt and Catch Fire. It's a show primarily revolving around, you guessed it, computers, and part of the series takes place in the Silicon Valley. Drop the N in Silicon, and what do you get? Silico. Yeah, it's not the most creative name they could have come up with, but it's nice to see a more subtle approach to naming someone as opposed to just sticking in one of the staff members' names. Then again, maybe it's just me. One thing I wanted to be addressed in this episode that wasn't was Silico's virus bots. They weren't mentioned at all despite being seen at the end of Viral Spiral's cliffhanger, and it makes me wonder if this is a season 2 idea that was built up here, or if it's just something that will never be explained. In the end, I guess only time will tell.